Hey there, welcome to the Marketing Happy Hour podcast, where each week we're learning career-defining advice, powerful social media strategies, unique creative tips, groundbreaking influencer marketing tactics, and more from marketing experts that represent some of the world's leading brands. Let's dive in. Grab a drink and join your hosts, Cassie and Erica, for this week's episode. Welcome to Season 4 of Marketing Happy Hour. We are so excited to have you here as we kick off this season with Karsen Murray, copywriter, educator, and podcaster. Karsen is a brand messaging powerhouse who will educate you on how to become a confident copywriter and use your skills to build and nurture an authentic audience around your brand. Karsen shares best practices for growing your email list from scratch, serving your audience with value-driven content, and an alternate approach to using pain points in your messaging. I'm so excited for you guys to hear this episode, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey, Karsen, how are you?
Hello, Erica. I'm good. It's so nice to be chatting with you today. I've been looking forward to this interview.
Yes, me too. I feel like I'm your number one fan from afar. I've been following you for such a long time and keeping up with everything that you are doing. So I'm very excited to be chatting with you today. And we'll be getting into all things copy and email marketing. But before we jump in, I do have an important question for you that we ask all of our guests. And that is,
for sure.
What is in your glass tonight, as this is Marketing Happy Hour after all?
So I'm going out of town in like a couple of days. I just got back from a trip and now I'm going on a trip.
Love it.
And so I'm living off of that situation where like you just eat everything that's in your fridge. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
Like when you're just running out of things, and I don't have any wine. Like I really wanted like a nice wine, but I do have to work late tonight. I don't typically work like after 4:30, but I have to work late tonight because I'm going on a trip. So I'm actually drinking matcha.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. You are like the matcha queen. I
love matcha. Yes, it's amazing.
What's your favorite matcha? Do you have a favorite brand?
Yeah, so I have two favorite brands. So if there's any I just feel like there's girlies out there that they want to be matcha girlies and they don't really know where to start, because matcha can kind of be like a weird taste at first if you don't like. I remember the first time I ever ordered matcha, I was like, what is this grass that I'm drinking? But I would say, like, if you are trying to get into matcha, Clever Blends. I don't know if you've tried Clever Blends, but they have like a pre-made matcha powder that already has like oat milk and coconut milk and lots of like really healthy adaptogens in it. So like check out Clever Blends. You can also use Karsen 15 for 15% off. Shameless plug there.
Yes.
And then for like just a pure straight up matcha, I like the brand Gold. It's GOLDE. And both of these brands are female founded. So
we love that.
I love that for us. So if you're looking to get into matcha, I would check out those two. But that's my favorite. And I'm sipping Golds right now because I need like straight up pure matcha.
That's incredible. I actually was just thinking about getting some matcha because I have some like leftover jam that I need. Strawberry matcha.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Yes, amazing. That's so good.
Yeah, so I'll look into that for sure. And we'll put your code in the show notes so everybody has it.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I am actually just sipping on some natural wine. It's not my favorite, so I'm not going to say the brand. But
oh, shoot.
I
love Natty Wine. Natty Wine is so good. It's hit or miss. It's hit or miss because it has some like sediment in it sometimes, and that can be odd.
Yeah, this one I feel like it's weird for me to even say this because I'm such a wine person, but I like had to dilute it with water because it was like syrup almost.
It's really sweet. Yeah.
Oh well.
It happens.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm excited to get into the nitty gritty here. I just want to hear a little bit about how you got into the world of copywriting and starting your own business.
Sure. I actually love this because it was by pure accident. So basically what what happened was I was working in I worked in hospitality for like 15 years. I love the service industry. I worked for like Hard Rock Casino. I opened a bunch of restaurants, worked for like Hard Rock Cafe, and I was just doing my thing. Didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, like what I wanted to be when I grew up. I went to
Mhm.
school for like education, but then after working in the education field, I was like, yeah, I can't do this. Shout out to all the teachers out there. You guys are heroes, straight up heroes.
Yep.
But anyway, so I decided that wasn't for me. Was working in hospitality, but really loved marketing. Wound up like getting a job offer for a local company in Tampa as their brand and marketing manager, and didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but absolutely fell in love with it. Like I loved it. I loved managing like all parts of a brand and like, the website and how the website should pivot and how the copy should change on there and just like their social media. Like I kind of oversaw all those little departments. And that was really, really cool. And then I always wanted, like, I come from like parents that are entrepreneurs and business owners. I grew up with like parents that owned a business. I didn't know anything else than that. So I was like, yeah, I really want to do that. Like I loved that life, and I love the life that like my parents created for us. And I just really knew that I wanted to be entrepreneurial in some way, shape, or form. So I kind of leveraged my position as a brand and marketing manager. And I was like, hey, I want to do this from home. Like I want to work from home more because that was like my dream. And they said, yeah. So I went down to part-time and I started working from home. And then I was like, you know what? I feel like I can do this for like other businesses. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I can, like, whatever I'm doing in corporate, I can do for other people, like online. I just didn't know what that looked like. And so then one of my dream brands, I don't know if you're familiar with the brand, but it's called Horatio Printing. It's like a planner company. Yes. Okay. Polly from Horatio.
Yes.
She put out like a little PSA to her email list, and I was on her email list. This is like back in like 2018, 17, 18. And I was like, where she was looking for a social media manager. And I was like, okay, I can totally do that. This is how I'm going to break into the online industry is I'm going to like apply to be like, I'm going to apply to work for her. And I made it to like, I don't know, I think there was like 100 applicants. I made it down to like the top 10, then the top 5, the top 3, then the top 2. And I remember being on vacation with my husband in Blue Ridge, Georgia, and sitting on the porch, and I got the phone call from her, and I didn't get the job, and I thought I had it. I thought I had it, but she loved me. We had such a vibe, and we were just such a good fit. And she was like, hey, like I know that position is closed, but would you be open to being my virtual assistant? Listen, I had no idea what that meant. I didn't even know really what a virtual assistant was. Like, I don't feel like it was as popular back then as it is today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I became her virtual assistant, and the tasks that I wound up doing, I'm landing this plane, I swear. The tasks that I wound up doing were very copywriting related. Like she had me writing emails to her newsletter, which had thousands of people on it. And I fell in love with email copywriting. And then, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, like I'm figuring out what this VA thing is. And I started taking on other clients, and I very quickly booked myself out as a VA. And all the projects I found myself doing were copywriting related, like blog writing, email, sales page, website stuff. And then I found out that copywriting was a real thing, and that I could marry my love and my natural gifting of writing, because that's just something I've always been good at since I was young. And just like the thing that everyone was like, oh, you're going to be a writer, you're going to be an author. But I was like, I don't want to be any of those. I don't want to be an author. So I found out that there was a way to marry my love for marketing and my natural gifting of writing and become a copywriter. And my mind was blown.
That is amazing. That's so crazy.
So it was very accidental. Yeah.
Oh, I love that though. And that's so cool that you mentioned Horatio and you worked for her for a little bit. I was planning a leadership conference for a ministry up in Nashville, and so I worked with her, and we had her planners in our goodie bags.
Amazing.
So yeah,
I might have been part of that email thread.
Gosh, yeah, it was in 2018.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh
I think I remember that. Like, did we customize planners for it?
It might have been. I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, okay.
I can't
I remember being a part of some email thread in that capacity of like having a conference. So yeah, maybe we might have somehow worked together a long time ago.
That would not surprise me. I feel like we also have a lot of people in common that we just know randomly. So especially being based in Tampa, of course.
Yeah.
Well, I'd just love to hear a little bit more about some general tips that you have for copywriting that can be applied to emails, social media, websites, all of those, like landing pages too, anything that you have to offer.
So as far as tips go, just like general broad tips for copywriting, I would say there's just so many, right? There's so many, but like the one that I just really want to point out is like being super clear and concise in your copywriting, right? And even more so just taking concise out of it and just focusing on being clear. I feel like a lot of times what I see, people get nervous to write copy because maybe it's not like your zone of genius, for lack of better words, or you don't feel like you're a gifted writer. So some people try to really be like very clever and in their copywriting, which can oftentimes come off as confusing. Like it feels clever to you and like you get it, right? It's like quippy and you're like, okay, that was good. But if you're just so clear about what you're saying, that's some of the best copy in the world. Like if people can understand what it is you're offering them and how they can interact with it in like 3 to 5 seconds, you've done the best job in the world. So when it comes to, your emails, social media, websites, landing pages, just focusing, like the number one tip I can give is just like focus on being really clear about what you're saying. Also, like Brene Brown says, being clear is being kind. So when we're super clear, we're actually being really kind to our readers and helping them to understand information faster. I think one of like my favorite quotes from Donald Miller, if anyone's familiar with Donald Miller, is like, people don't buy the best product or service in the marketplace. They buy what they understand the fastest. So if you can just remember that, I feel like that will help you just go a long ways with your copywriting and just remove all the overwhelm of everything else you might be thinking about.
Yeah, no, that's amazing advice. Thank you for that. Well, how can brands use their words to grow their community and ultimately encourage more sales?
So I think one of the best way brands can use their words is like knowing what kind of words like resonates with your brand and your community, right? So I think that I know this sounds elusive, and I think when I say this, people are always like, what does that mean? Or how do I create this? But having a really solid brand message, right? So knowing what it is that you do and how it helps your community and what kind of problems it might solve for your community and what kind of outcomes they might experience by engaging with your brand and how they can engage with your brand and, just things like that, just and knowing the simple transformation that your brand could provide someone, right? And not that it's all about transformation, but just knowing those things and creating a solid brand message around answering those questions and communicating that in the marketplace is how your brand is going to connect with your community. And the sooner your brand can connect, because that's what copy is, right? It's like literally connecting your offer, what your brand does with the community that you serve, and making it really simple for them to understand that and how to engage with it and how it might improve or support them if that's what they, would like to do, if that's what they need. So the sooner you can create that solid messaging, stick with it, communicate it to the marketplace, people understand it and can engage with it, that's how, you're going to increase sales, in my opinion.
No, absolutely. Do you have any tips on how people can solidify their brand message? Like any first steps?
So I need to get you my freebie. I have a brand messaging freebie, and it's a questionnaire. I think it's I honestly need to like rebrand it, but the questions are still super solid. And I use I think it's like 12 questions that I ask. And these are the same questions that I ask my clients when I'm creating messaging for their copywriting projects. And I use these questions if I'm like creating a freebie or creating a new offer or creating a podcast episode. Let's say I'm trying to market a specific podcast episode. I ask myself these questions, and it's how I communicate what I'm doing with the world. It's just like creating messaging for whatever it is. It could be for your brand. It could be for an offer. Like I said, it could be for a freebie or whatever it is. And I have literally tried to not use it. I did this test with myself. I was like, I'm not going to use it. And I'm just going to try to communicate this thing with my people. And I could not do it. And the thing is like when you don't create messaging, for whatever it is that you're trying to put out into the world, you start you'll show up on different platforms and communicate it differently on all different platforms, because you don't really know what you're saying. Like you haven't created messaging to specifically communicate it very cohesively. And that's how like I can always tell when someone might need a little bit of help with messaging, is when they start explaining the same thing in different ways because they haven't really solidified it. And that's when your community can start to get confused, right? Because I mean, you might know this, people listening might know this, but it's an age-old fact that it takes about 8 to 10 times for someone to interact with our offer or whatever it is we're trying to market before they fully understand what it is and how they can engage with it, right? Like you might see it a few times, you might see it in an ad, you might read about it in an email, you might hear someone talking about it on their IG story, and like by your maybe 8th time, you're like, oh, okay, like I actually understand now what this is and how it can make my life better. Right. So, yeah. And that's because they're repeating the same message over and over and over again. So anyways, long story long, I need to get you my freebie that you can plug into the show notes so that people can have that. I think it's called marketing your offer in minutes. Like it's the marketing your offer in minutes, like questionnaire that you fill out.
Oh, that's incredible. Yes, we would love that so that we can share it all over social media, everywhere. A lot of people struggle with just nailing those, brand messaging points in general. So totally helpful. Karsen, we talked a little bit about this before we started chatting here, but I would love to hear if you do have any specific tips that you can give around copy that converts. I know you said you have a perspective on that term, so I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, it's not juicy. I was going to say I have a juicy perspective. It's not really anything groundbreaking, but I actually try to steer clear of that language, copy that converts, because first of all, I used to use that language. Okay. Yeah. I think maybe like all copywriters have used that language. And I initially stopped using that language because I was like, okay, this is very saturated. Like I'm seeing this everywhere and I don't think it's helping me stand out. Like I don't want to just be another copywriter that's preaching the message like, oh, I write copy that converts. Like, in my opinion, I'm like, well, yeah, that's what we're all trying to do here. But not just that, but I didn't feel like it was very ethical. Like I felt like, we're taking the stance of like, we're only writing copy we're writing copy in order to get people to convert. Like we're just looking at people as like numbers on a spreadsheet and using our words to like convert more and more people, which I get it. Like copy's job in a sense is to do that. But as far as like the way I look at copy and the way I write copy. So like in my Instagram bio, you might see that I write thoughtful and ethical copy, right? And what this means is it's just approaching your copy a little bit differently. I don't use a lot of like pain points, shame, and manipulation in my copy, which is what we're taught to do. So if there's anyone out there that's like, oh yeah, like I was taught to use pain points in my copy, like yes, we all were. We came up in the world of like bro marketing essentially.
Yes.
So we've all been taught the same thing. So there's no shame around that. But somewhere along the way, like my formal training in copywriting for anyone that might be interested in becoming a copywriter was through StoryBrand. Are you familiar with StoryBrand, Erica?
Yes, absolutely. I have not read the book, but I listened to his podcast.
Yeah. Okay. So my formal training was with Donald Miller. I actually like flew out to Nashville, did the whole training in person before, the panini and everything happened. I was actually like the last in-person like cohort, which was really cool. And so there was lots of things that I loved about that formal training, but then there were some things that were taught in the marketplace, like using shame, like exposing people's shame and exposing their pain points and, manipulating them in order to convert them, to gain more sales. And that never felt good to me. I just didn't know what else. Like, I was like, there has to be something else. And then, the world of ethical copywriting came about, and my beautiful friend Nat that I've had on my podcast twice now. She introduced me to ethical copywriting, and I took her course on ethical copywriting, and I just learned such a beautiful practice. And that's why, and I'm again landing the plane here. But when it comes to like specific tips that you can get to, in my opinion, to support your readers and help them to make a decision if it's right for them, because if we look at it, if we take a step back and look at it differently, like that's such a beautiful way to look at copy, right? Like really all copy is doing is we're presenting our community, we're presenting our readers with information and supporting their different decision-making styles so that they can make an informed and autonomous decision about our product, about our service, without us having to expose them to shame and pain points and manipulation. So again, my answer here is like just to be really, really clear. Like being clear is so kind. Like you don't really have to. I think we were also taught to make our offers seem a lot better than they were, to overpromise, to make them sound like really bright and shiny. People are yearning for authenticity. They're yearning for you just to be like really honest about your offer and, you know, what it includes and how it can possibly help them. Like you don't have to promise them the world, right? Like being realistic in your copy and being really clear in your copy about what your offer is and what it can actually do and how it can support people should alleviate you, right? It should like take all the pressure off to have to be something and make your offer sound like it's something that it's not. And then just being super clear and inviting people into your copy, I think is another thing that is really refreshing. Like instead of talking at people, like, you know, I know you struggle with X, Y, and Z, and being like, hey, do you feel like you know, are overwhelmed by this? Do you see what I mean? Like asking people questions and inviting them into your copy instead of talking at them is another beautiful practice that I would recommend people start implementing as well.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you said how you said people are yearning for authenticity. I think that's so true. It's something that's come up over and over again across, you know, all different avenues of marketing. Even in this podcast, we've talked about it so many times about empathy and authenticity and even a little bit of absurdity on like TikTok and things like that. There's been such like a shift in the industry in the past few years that, you know, it's more personal. It's more personalized.
Absolutely.
It's not, you know, it's no longer the tactics that we've always been taught. This is a new landscape and we have to adjust. So I love that.
Yeah.
I think that message is so important for sure. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So I know for a lot of business owners, social media managers, and marketers, writing copy can be overwhelming and time consuming. How would you instill copy confidence into someone? I love this question. This is actually one, our listeners probably can hear me. I'm like reading it clearly. But this is one that Cassie came up with. So kudos to her. I love this term, copy confidence. Give us
that's really, really good. I'm like, can I use that somewhere? Thanks, Cassie. But anyways, so, oh gosh, yes. I'm sure, I mean, it's hard. I'm not going to be like, I know how it feels because clearly I'm a copywriter and I'm removed from that in the sense of like, I've practiced this for years. But I know it's overwhelming and I know it's time consuming. That's why people hire it out, right? That's why I have a job. That's literally why I have a job. But for copy confidence, okay, this is going to sound, I hope it's encouraging, but you have to practice it, right? Like it's just like anything else. Like the first few times you do it, okay, let's just pretend this is how I imagine it happening. Because I just, you know, I created my email marketing 101 course. And this is one of the questions that came up is like, oh, like I'm overwhelmed when I go to sit down and write an email, Karsen, or I just feel like it's going to take me forever. So the thing is like, one of the most refreshing things that you can do, and I know all platforms are different, like when you're writing copy for a website versus an email, but I tell them like to write how you speak, right? Like, first of all, write like you speak. It's something that you have to practice. The more you practice it, the more normal it will hopefully feel for you. I'm not going to promise that's going to feel normal, but it's just like anything else. Like you really have to practice it. And the more that you do practice it, the more you do, you get in touch with your own brand voice and how you want to write and how you want to communicate with your community. Like I would assume like, you know, when you sit down to write captions for social media, like the more you practice caption writing, the more comfortable you feel expressing your voice on social media, right? And, you know, the more emails you write to your community and the more you feel comfortable, just like feel like you're writing to a friend, essentially. And that's the goal, right? And I think also another thing that will really help with copy confidence is, again, shameless plug, messaging. Messaging will... I truly believe messaging will provide you with so much confidence because you've already answered those really hard questions and you don't have to think about what you're writing about. Like you've already answered the questions and you're just using those answers to drive and steer your copy.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's a method that you recommend for practicing that as well, in addition to just like going for it and just starting and seeing what works? Do you practice any A/B testing, or do you do any of that sort of stuff?
A/B testing with you know what? Not really. So my method is I like steps, right? Like I like
Mhm.
I like supporting myself as much as possible when it comes to steps. So like literally my practice is create messaging for whatever it is that I'm doing, whatever it is that I'm writing, use the messaging to drive my copy. Sure, you can A/B test like maybe, I mean, I think you'd A/B test things like brand voice more than
Mhm.
anything, probably. Like, oh, I think this is my voice. And then you might write something the next day and like you change it up a little bit and you feel more yourself.
Mhm.
And I think that's the beauty of being our own brands, right? Like, yes, you might have a business, but I'm sure like your business is kind of tied to your personal brand. So that's kind of the beauty of that is like you can write like you actually talk, right? Because that's what your community wants.
Mhm.
So as far as like A/B testing, like, oh, do I test like copy on a website for X amount of months and then change it up a little bit? I mean, sure, you can if you know, really want to, if you just don't feel like it's resonating the way you wish it would, but I don't do too much A/B testing.
Okay. Yeah. No, that makes total sense. I totally understand that. Well, shifting gears just a little bit, I know later in this season, we're going to have I think she's your personal friend, actually, Jess. We're going to have her on the podcast.
Yay!
So
Yes, my
yeah.
bestie.
Oh, yeah. So we wanted to talk a little bit about, as a creative and business owner, what tips do you have for staying productive? Because I know Jess is kind of an
Oh my gosh.
expert on that,
Yeah.
but I would love to hear your perspective as
I'm
well.
like, this is not my territory. Okay, so oh gosh, for staying productive. That's hard. I don't think I ever stay productive. Am I allowed to say that? Like, I don't ever think that I like consistently stay productive,
Mhm.
especially as like a business owner with mental illness. I
Mhm.
have bipolar 2 disorder.
Okay.
So I definitely have like waves and seasons of more productivity than others, right?
Mhm.
But a lot of just is like I subscribe to the hustle Sally methodology. I will say that. And she has helped me so much with just like figuring out my like I think just like figuring out like a schedule for like my different seasons
Sure.
of life, and just like having a game plan for like those different things. And
Mhm.
maybe I don't know, maybe people with mental illness can definitely resonate. They're like, oh yeah, girl, like I don't stay productive either.
Yeah.
But I think there's different like that, for instance, like with bipolar disorder, like sometimes you're depressed or sometimes like you're manic or sometimes you feel completely regular. So I kind of have to have like a productivity like game plan for each one of those things, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's my answer is just like having a game plan.
Yeah.
And just knowing that like productivity doesn't look the same for me
Mhm.
all the time, but knowing the things that help me feel like I'm being productive in those different places. And that's definitely just like boundaries, like, you know, creating boundaries, knowing my schedule. And also just like, I love to make everything around me feel beautiful. I really love like aesthetics. I know you follow me, so you've
Oh,
you
yeah.
like, yes, you've gotten that by now.
100%.
But I think those three things really help me to want to be productive.
Awesome. That's great. And how would you say that you get yourself out of, if you are ever in a creative rut, how do you get out of that? How do you come out of that?
If I'm ever in a creative rut, it's 9 times out of 10 because I've been consuming way too much
Mm.
content and allowing myself to, like, I'll consume way too much content because I think it's like encouraging me or inspiring me, which sometimes it does, right? Like, sometimes
Mhm.
consuming content inspires you, but I think there's a fine line. So yeah. I've been consuming too much, and then I feel like I'm not doing enough, and then like all my creativity just dries up because then I'm like, oh no, you know, I'm irrelevant essentially. So to get out of a creative rut, I kind of like just take a break and a rest.
Mhm.
A lot of times from like digital platforms. And
Yes.
I just give myself space, like giving myself space, like taking a bubble bath or taking a shower when my phone is not with me. It'll give you all the ideas in the world, you know? So just giving yourself some space to tap back into who you are and your creativity, and like your ideas, and distancing yourself from like everything that I've been consuming really helps.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think that's so important too, even going beyond, creative ruts. I think it's just important in general to rest and reset and
Yeah.
kind of just like make sure that you're taken care of first because your work follows that. So I totally,
Yeah.
totally agree with that. So let's double down for a minute on email because I know you're the expert and I would love to hear what is, in your opinion, the impact and effectiveness of email, and how can brands use that email strategy to build loyalty and community?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This question is just my love language. So email. Okay, how do I make this simple? Um, First of all, the impact is incredible. There's like I think by 2023, there's like 4 billion email users, right?
Wow.
So a lot of people are like, oh, email is dead. That could
Mhm.
not, if I just could grab someone by the shoulders and look them in the eye and be like, if I could tell them one thing, I'd be like, listen here, I don't know who you are, but email is not dead. But but anyways, okay, the impact and the effectiveness. So I don't think email marketing is for everyone. I'm not going to sit here and be like, you need an email strategy. I don't ever like to should anyone into anything. I feel like you really have to be in a place where like you want to implement email marketing to like nurture your community and support your sales efforts. And that's exactly that's the beauty of email, is that it can do both. It can nurture and it can support your sales efforts, right? And so the effectiveness is like brand omnipresence, right? So let's say you're using like, for a while there, I would say like 90% of business owners were like, Instagram is
Yep.
it for me. It's just Instagram. And they were putting all their eggs in the Instagram basket. And then that's when a lot of people were coming out of the woodwork and being like, oh, social media isn't safe. What if your Instagram platform disappears tomorrow? I don't subscribe to that messaging either. Like, I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But email is still one of the most secure ways to market what you do. And beyond that, like beyond that very surface level argument of, yeah, Instagram or TikTok or whatever could, be gone tomorrow. And then how are you going to contact all your community, right? Because you didn't build your email list. Beyond that, it's helping your brand create a more omnipresent reach, right? And a more
Mhm.
omnipresent marketing strategy. And the way I like to explain this is beyond email being a secure platform, it's very intimate and it's very supportive. So let's say like, your community is following you on Instagram, and maybe they've even moved on to TikTok. So like, you have them there as well. There's algorithms on both platforms. We're not, we know that. Okay. I'm sorry if I just triggered anyone by saying algorithm. It's like such a sore subject, I know.
Yes.
But anyway, so like there's algorithms on both platforms, right? So let's say like, you're cranking out content on Instagram, you're cranking out content on TikTok, and people, maybe members of your community see it here and there, right? They're not going to see everything because also, they're following other people. But let's say that they're also subscribed to your email list, right? And once a week, you're rounding up all of your best content from Instagram, from your podcast, if you have one, from your YouTube channel, from TikTok, and you're compiling it in that email. And you're saying, hey, like, I'm giving you a really convenient way to consume all my content, because there are people out there who actually do want to consume all your content. Like, they're very loyal brand fans, right? They just don't have the capacity to. So if you're packaging it up, you're sending it to them once a week, they are way more likely to see you pop up in their inbox than they're
Mhm.
going to be able to see all of your content on different social platforms, right? And even if they're not, people might be like, well, what if they're not opening my email? They're still seeing your name pop up in their inbox,
Right.
therefore increasing your brand's awareness, right?
Yeah.
It's so powerful. It's so beautiful. I don't have a client. If all my clients were on this call with me right now, they'd be like, oh, single-handedly, email has has changed the way that I sell. Because also beyond nurturing, so I would, there's nurturing strategies for email where you're just showing up, you're providing value, for lack of a better word. I really don't like that phrase because I think like inherently we are valuable. So anything we create is valuable. But providing stuff for your community. But then when you go to sell, like if you're in launch mode, a lot of times people they're like, their social media community gets tired of like seeing them sell on every story and every post. But when you're also using email to support your sales efforts, that's such a beautiful thing too, because you likely have a segmented group of your community that's interested in that offer, and that they're interested. So that way, when you're sending them those emails, you don't feel bad about it because they asked for it, right? It's like when people sign up for wait lists because they're interested in something. When you're sending them a sales campaign regarding what they signed up for on that wait list, it's what they asked to be there. They asked for that content. They asked for you to support them in that way. So you're alleviating like your sales strategy and also, combining it with social media. And it's beautiful. Again, there's that omnipresence there. There's that support, and there's that segmentation of your audience who specifically asked for that content and who is interested in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that people on social media can get, a little turned off by always selling on those platforms, especially it can just be overwhelming when they have, all these people on social media trying to sell them things. And if they are actually interested in what you're offering, email is such a direct way to address that. And I think it's less distracting. There's it's not like there's comments on your email where, someone's dissatisfied or something like that. So that's another.
And people can opt out. In email, even if someone signed up to be on your wait list, so they said they were interested in that offer, so that you're sending them sales emails now. If for some reason they're like, oh, this isn't for me, they can opt out. Like you can have them tap on a link or something and it'll automatically remove them from that sequence. They'll still remain on your email list. They just won't be receiving that sales content. And you can't do there's not that segmentation and personalization factor on social media platforms. So I could just go for days, but so there's just so many factors, and it's such a beautiful marketing element that you can add to your business once you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to just hear for a minute and segue a little bit. How do you feel about text message marketing?
So I am personally very overwhelmed by it.
Yep.
I think here's the thing. I think it's purposeful. I know people that use it. I am actually subscribed to, the brand is Lindsay Aaron. It's the Daring Romantics. And she has like a text message subscription where you'll get, encouragement texted to you every day. And I love that. However, when it comes to like sales stuff, my take on it is we've become conditioned with email to expect sales content. Yeah. Okay. With your phone, I could not be more annoyed and overwhelmed. Literally just yesterday, I was at dinner with my husband, and I got I didn't even sign up for it. Here's the thing, I'm not signing up for these things, and I'm getting bombarded with, oh, here's 15% off for this. Yep. And I get so frustrated. I think there's less regulation, and security measures around text messaging sales than there are email. Email, it's literally illegal to do that. Right. It's illegal to get someone's email without them consenting to giving you their email and sending sales content. You can mark them as spam, you can flag them. And then when you mark emails as spam, and when you flag them, if they're fishy or they're spammy, they'll get let's say your inbox provider is Gmail, right? Gmail will, if a lot of Gmail customers are marking them as spam, Gmail will see that and they'll block that sender from reaching their clients. Phones aren't that way, right? So I honestly, to answer your question, I could not be more annoyed by it.
I totally agree. I think it's so invasive. On the rare occasion, I don't know if you follow, We're Not Really Strangers, but I have their text message, I consented and signed up for it. Yeah. They'll text just encouragement or thought-provoking things every now and then. And I
Yeah.
love that. I think that's a great way to intimately reach your customer, and just start open conversations and things like that around your brand. But I totally agree with you.
Listen, consent is a huge part of ethical marketing.
Yeah.
So if you ever look into ethical marketing, like consent is huge. Like if there's no consent in the marketing, it is no longer ethical. So I think that's the thing too. I think a lot of text marketing is not ethical. And it just frustrates me.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I just wanted to hear what your thoughts were for sure. Well, moving on, I just want to hear a little bit about if someone's looking to build their email list from scratch, what are some of the examples of effective growth strategies that they can test? And what have you seen work well for you and your clients?
Absolutely. So I think if you have a community, even if you don't, but if you do have a community on like a social media platform, which you likely do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the simplest things you can do, I think sometimes people are like, oh, okay, I have to create this like really robust freebie and it has to be like tons of value. And I'm going to build this like 42-page workbook. And I'm just like, no. You don't, honestly, sometimes you don't even need a freebie. Okay. You can literally create a branded newsletter.
Yeah.
For instance, I have a branded newsletter. Okay. For like my overarching email opt-in, it's a branded newsletter. It's called the Not Your Average Newsletter. And if you go like, if you want an example of it, you can like head to the link in my bio. My handle is like @Karsen on Instagram, and tap the link in my bio. And then I think it'll say like, join, what does it say? I'm like clicking on it right now. Join the Not Your Average Newsletter. And when you tap on that page, it says, get exclusive copy and marketing tips. Be the first to know about new podcast episodes, call dibs on free resources, and waitlist signups. So right away, people know, my community knows by joining my newsletter that this is the type of content they're going to get. And then that's enough value in and of itself. Like I didn't even have to create a freebie. They just know that weekly they're going to get tips, and that's the value. That's the reason why they're signing up, right? So I think very simply, it's like, what kind of branded newsletter can you create and share with your community? Like, do you want to do like a weekly content roundup where and I teach all this in Email Marketing 101. So there's like 4 main different types of branded newsletters that I go over that you can create based on like how your brand is set up. So someone that's creating a ton of content every week, like if you have a YouTube podcast, like if you're making TikTok content and Instagram, you can very easily create a content roundup newsletter where once a week you're packaging up all your best performing content and sharing it in a really, just like easy to consume way for your community. And that's value in and of itself, right? Or maybe like you want to give a weekly tip, then that's your newsletter. So as far as that goes, like, I don't really think that all this, like, you don't need a freebie all the time, but I think a lot of times like freebie strategy for list growth comes in when you have an offer attached to it, right? So like when you also want to build out a sales campaign. So the first step would be like creating a freebie for that offer, and then creating a sales campaign that follows it and helps to sell that offer. So freebies are all great. I think for the longest time, people are like, oh, if I'm going to build my list, I need to create a freebie. But literally, you can create a branded newsletter and your community is going to be like, yes, I love you. I love it. I want more of you. So I'm going to sign up for your email list. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And it really brings up the whole personal branding that you've been so great at. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And for a while there, you had the brand Hype Gal, and then you pivoted to your own brand, and now you have courses and a podcast and things like that. And I just love to hear, a little bit of the background behind, how you knew it was time to pivot and how to determine the next best step for you if somebody's in that as well.
Yeah. So for the longest time, so my old brand was called Hype Gal. And for the longest time, I knew I was hiding behind my brand. Like I didn't want to be like the face of a brand. I just kind of wanted to hide behind it. I mean that in the nicest way possible. Like I just didn't want it to be me. Like I didn't want to be the face of my brand. It felt like a lot of responsibility. It also felt very scary. And for me anyways, it felt scary for me. And it was just easier for me to be strictly business and less personal. But then my community would always be like, we want more of you. Like, I began to see very quickly that it didn't really matter what I was doing, that they were there because they liked me. And that was, I'm not saying that to toot my own horn. It was like an eye-opening moment, I was like, okay, this is really beautiful. Like I have people that are very supportive and kind, and like they like engaging with what I'm putting out there, beyond just like the business stuff. Like that's really cool. So I think I hid behind my brand for a long time. I was like, I don't want to be a personal brand. I'm never going to be a personal brand. And then all of a sudden I just had this literal come to Jesus moment last July, where I texted my best friend, Jessica, who will be on this podcast. And I just like, I turned 30. And then like the weekend after my 30th birthday, I just had like this discontent in me around my brand. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. And I texted her and I was like, hey, I think like Hype Gal is over. Like, I just feel like it's going to be, I didn't really know what it meant, but that's what I felt. And she texted me back and she was like, can I tell you something and you won't be mad? And like, that's just immediately like immediate anxiety.
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess so. And she was like, I was praying for your business the other day, and while I was cleaning the bathroom. So like, I know it's true because I could literally imagine her doing this.
Yes.
She was like, I was cleaning the bathroom, my tidy for 15. And it's part of the Hustle Stanley framework. Like you guys will learn about that later.
Love it.
And she was like, God was like, yeah, but Hype Gal's ending soon.
Oh my God.
And I was like, that is so wild. And I didn't really know what that meant. I was like, okay, my business is ending. It's over. Like I have to find a full-time job. Like literally I was looking at jobs like on ConvertKit and Flowdesk. I was like, I'll just be an email specialist. Like I got this, like I'll copywrite for someone, whatever. And it really just turned out like, I really just felt like God being like, no, like, I just need you to stop hiding. Like, I need you to be you. Like, I need you to show up in the world. And that was just really cool and beautiful. And so I've been practicing that more and more, and just like what it looks like for me to be a personal brand with also a business. And I'm really pumped about it. Like I feel free. Like I feel really good. Like I feel free. And I think I also realized that I was getting bored with just talking about business. Like even now, I love copywriting. I love what I do. I'm so thankful for it. I'm so thankful that I get to use my gifts and my talents to build a business, to serve incredible business owners, and to create like time and financial freedom for myself. But like literally, I came to a point like a month ago where I was like, I swear if I have to crank out one more piece of content about copy, I'm going to go bananas. And I realized that all along, I've been really passionate about blending like entrepreneurial stuff, copy stuff with like business lifestyle. And I think on all my platforms, I think that's like what I want to do is like, I want to attract business owners or entrepreneurs that are also like interested in like the business lifestyle side of things too. So it's like not just business, not just lifestyle, but like marrying those two. And I guess I'm sure there are people out there doing it really well. But I spent so much time looking for it. I was like, okay, I need to find someone who's doing what I want to do and like emulate it. And I've realized that I just need to like be it.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. I feel like that's a lot of people's entrepreneurial journey too, is like, if you're searching for it and you can't find it, just become it. Like that's exactly, it speaks to that for sure. That's awesome. I love that journey for you. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of the new initiatives that you have, like your email marketing 101 course and your Just Keep Showing Up podcast, which I love listening to. I was listening to a couple episodes before we hopped on here. Can you just share a behind the scenes look at what that entails and how you made the decision to launch both of those projects?
Yeah. Okay. So, podcast was pretty easy. Like I help so many people launch podcasts. I feel like just like in the nature of like what I do and helping them creating messaging for their podcast. Like, like when podcasts were like really popping off. Do you remember that era?
Oh yeah. Jenna Kutcher was like my four-way, or what do you say? Whatever it's called. My introduction to a podcast.
Yeah, so like they were just popping off, and I'm not the gal that's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do it because it's popular. Like I really have to feel like it's the right time. Like I really have to like feel like it's the right time for me. So I just felt like I wanted to create another way to connect with my community and provide. I love educating. Like I love educating so, so much. And I just wanted another way to like connect with my community and for them to be able to like, I guess, take me with them.
Yeah.
Whether they were like in the car or in the shower. And it's mostly like sometimes I have these realizations where I'm like, okay, I really love podcasts. Like I just love learning while I'm at the gym or I'm in the shower or I'm getting ready or I'm driving. So I feel like other people have to like also love this too. And I also wanted that other way to connect with my community. So then I was like, okay, like I feel like it's time to start a podcast. And that's how I did it. I didn't think about it too much.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I do a lot of things that I'm ready to do, to be honest with you, because I'm a very black and white thinker. And if I think about things too much, then I wind up not doing them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as for the course, did you want me to answer for the course too?
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
Okay. As for Email Marketing 101, for about a year, I had a lot of people from my community saying like, hey, like we would really love a course about this, or hey, we would really love educational material around email. Like somehow along the way, I just got dubbed like the queen of email marketing.
Yeah, of course.
I really didn't intend to do that. Like that was not my intention. I just think I really love email marketing. And one of my first gigs as a copywriter was I moved from like VA things to like email retainer writing. So I just naturally and I help people with launches and all that strategy. And I just fell in love with it. And I just was like, okay, like I literally did market research for a year. I did it for way too long. And because again, analysis paralysis. And then finally, I had some friends just encourage me to go for it. And I did a beta round. Creating a course was the hardest thing I've ever done for some reason. And I think it might just be because it was on email marketing, and it was very challenging to create a course on email marketing because it's like, okay, this is already like an overwhelming and elusive topic for a lot of people. And I want to help them like implement these things and make it easy for them to understand. So I felt like I had like, it was kind of like a big undertaking, but then I just did it, and I did a beta round, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming. Maybe this is just for beta. And then I had friends be like, no, Karsen, you need to launch this. And I launched it to my email list only. Like I launched it to my email list only, because I was like, all right, I'm going to put my email list wait list to the test. This is like where like I'm like, what's it called? Like the proof is in the pudding. Like put my money where my mouth is, like all of those things. And my goal was to sell 30 courses, because I was like, that would be worth my time and investment, like ROI wise. I was like, I want to sell 30 courses. I had like 250 people or more on my wait list. And I was like, in a week, if I sell 30 from like based on my wait list, that'll be magical. And I think I sold like 30 in like the first like 24 hours from my wait list. So that's the power of email right there.
Yeah.
That is the power of email.
Oh,
and now we have over 100 people in the course, and it's amazing.
Oh, that's incredible. How did you build out your course? Is it Klaviyo or whatever?
No, I used Mighty Networks because I wanted a course element, but I also wanted a community component all in one, because I'm not a Facebook girly. Like I just don't, it's not my jam. I understand that it is for a lot of people, and you have to find your own thing. But Mighty Networks was like built for people who wanted to run memberships and like wanted a course element and community. It's a really beautiful platform if anyone wants to check it out. And it allowed me to have like community and the course all in one place, and I was sold.
Oh, that's awesome. There's a lot of those like community platforms out there, but they don't have that course element. So that's really cool. I'll have to look into that for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I want to just know a little bit around how you market your podcast other than like Instagram. Is it mainly to your email list?
Yeah. So every Monday, a podcast episode goes live, and my email list is always the first to know about it. So the Monday email is about my podcast, and my email list. And that's the thing. That's the thing with email. Like a lot of times people think they have to reinvent the wheel with creating content for their email list. You totally don't. Like I just let my email list know about my content before any other platform, and that makes it all worth it. So yeah, I market it on like via email. I share about it on Instagram. I don't know, like I need to look into podcast SEO, but a lot of people just
Yeah.
find my podcast.
Yeah, we're experiencing that too with this. Like, I think there's someone reached
like
out.
What
to
is
us.
Happening?
I don't know. Someone reached out to us via email, and I think that it could have been a scam, but we like to laugh about it because they were like, "You're the number 27th performing podcast in Taiwan," and we were like, "How did that happen? Like, what is going on?" It honestly probably is just a person reaching out. That's probably a scam, but we like to joke around.
Yeah, I think I literally. Yeah, I just got a DM today. Like every once in a while, I'll get a DM, and it's like, I just started following your IG because I found your podcast, and I'm just like, how are you finding my podcast? What are you searching?
That's so crazy.
Yeah, so like podcast platform, I use Buzzsprout as my podcast platform, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. And then like word of mouth too, like people share it, which is really beautiful. I'm super grateful for that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then is it the similar routes for your course? You do email and things like that?
Yes. So I'm actually I'm building out a funnel for my course right now, like an email funnel. So I'm working to like build out a workshop. So speaking of freebies, here's another fun fact about freebies. When you're connecting them to something that you're selling, you can A/B test more than one. Like I think a lot of times people are just like, oh, I need to like find my lead magnet. Like I need to create a webinar and that'll be my thing. But people learn in different ways and people feel supported in different ways, right?
Yeah.
So for Email Marketing 101, I'm going to create like an email marketing game plan workshop because I feel like that's the most important step when it comes to email marketing is like developing your game plan. So that'll be a workshop that leads people to the course via email. And then I'm also going to do like an email challenge where like you get emailed one step every day to starting your email list. And it's like written instructions and also like a very short video. So they're like bite-sized steps and it'll be like a little email video challenge. And just see which one performs and which one people like. And then that way email will be supporting my email course. And I also talk about it on Instagram. I'll probably talk about it on TikTok here soon. I talk about it on the podcast. So yeah, multiple ways. I plug it in my nurture emails. Like that's a really beautiful thing. Like even though in your nurture campaign, you're not really hard selling any offers. Like I use Flowdesk and I have blocks at the bottom of my emails that like, just plug Email Marketing 101 and people can click on it if they want to.
Have you tried other platforms other than Flowdesk and you found that Flowdesk is best, or is that just kind of what you've always used?
I don't think it's like, I know I've used so many different ones. I've been inside almost every email marketing platform because of just like clients and stuff. I find that if you're newer to email marketing, and it all depends on what your goals are. And again, in Email Marketing 101, I have like this not a big spreadsheet, but I have like this chart that helps people choose their ESP, which is their email service provider based on like their goals, because I don't want to just be like, oh, Flowdesk is your be all end all. But for newer to email marketing, folks and just people with very like simplistic goals for email marketing, Flowdesk, I could not recommend more. Like it just, I think one of the reasons people aren't successful with email marketing is because they don't actually like the platform that they're using.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard really good things about Flowdesk. So I was
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
In one of my other, my day job, I use MailChimp on just like a regular Monday email that we always send out. And it's not my favorite thing, but we also use a platform called FG. Have you used that one?
No, I haven't used FG.
I think it's like it stands for Funnel Gorgeous, but I know that.
Yes. I've heard of Funnel Gorgeous. Yes.
Yeah. I know that it's not like, I mean, I'm not in that platform every day, but I know the other people on our team don't actually love it either. So we want to look into Flowdesk.
It's probably, very robust. The thing with Flowdesk is it's a relatively newer than a lot of other, I think it provides solutions like MailChimp and other robust platforms. They're like so dry. They're not very aesthetic. They are hard to use. Like Flowdesk is very easy to use. And that's what small business owners are looking for. Like they don't need these platforms with like tons of options and funnels and tagging and segmenting. They're not there yet. And I think a lot of that is like, if you have like a lot of digital products or like e-commerce, like that's where a lot of those tools come in handy. So they like, they're genius. Like Martha and Rebecca are genius for like creating the solution to that problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think like there's a time and a place for all of that. And you just have to know what your goals are for email and make sure that your ESP like supports those goals at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. Well, we are nearing the end of our interview here. I feel like we could talk forever about this, but we love to ask this question on Marketing Happy Hour. What do you know now that you wish you did at the beginning of your career?
Oh my goodness. Oh gosh, I feel like I can give myself a piece of advice, like, don't expect yourself to be at a certain point during any point of this. You know what I mean? Like we kind of like create landmarks or milestones, like where we think we should be at a certain time. Like, don't do that. Like, don't put that kind of pressure on yourself. But to be honest with you, Erica, I'm glad I didn't know anything because I feel like if I would have known everything that I know now, I wouldn't have done it. Like if I would have known that like it's going to be beautiful, but it's also going to be really difficult. Like it's going to be really wonderful and rewarding, but it's also going to be like incredibly challenging, and you're going to want to like quit everything sometimes. I wouldn't have done it. So sometimes I'm just glad that I didn't know anything.
Yeah, it's like the bliss of ignorance, or ignorance is bliss, or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that too, especially like even in working in a corporate environment, it's the same thing. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Where can people follow you, find you? I know you have all sorts of platforms. So where can people get to you?
Yeah. So you can hang out with me on Instagram at Karsen Murray. And like if you're typing that into Instagram right now, it's with a K, like first and foremost, like it's KARSEN. So if you're like already searching like CAR, it's not gonna work out well. And then like if you tap the link in my bio, that's where you can like join my email newsletter. Even if you're just looking for inspiration, like even if you're not looking for like copy tips or something, like just join for inspo. If like you want to see like, if you're interested in email marketing and kind of like how I'm doing things, I tell all my clients to do that. And then on TikTok, I'm Karsen.Murray because someone took my name. How that happened, I have no idea. And then I have a podcast, but again, you can find that like in my you can basically find everything in my Instagram bio. Let's just say that.
Okay, amazing. And we'll put all your information in the show notes and on our Instagram and everywhere we post this as well, so people will be able to get to you. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I am so excited about this episode. I think it will provide a lot of value, obviously, and just so much great advice for people who are trying to break out into the world of email marketing, break out into their copywriting skills and things like that. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
What an awesome episode that Karsen and Erica did together. I loved getting to listen to all the insights that Karsen shared on ethical copywriting. It's actually a principle that I've never really thought about before, but something I'm definitely going to pay attention to and see how I can apply in my own organization. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, we would love for you to subscribe to the podcast and give us a follow on Instagram. You can find us at Marketing Happy Hour. That's at Marketing Happy HR.